This is the Sharing Without Shame podcast, where we go beyond addiction to uncover the deeper roots of trauma and shame. Hurt people hurt people. They hide behind masks. And here, we're done hiding. We're sharing our stories without shame.
Welcome to the Sharing Without Shame podcast. I'm your host, Donna Marston, and we are ranked in the top 100 addiction, recovery, and sobriety podcasts by Million Podcasts. I'm a mom who's walked the painful path of loving a child in active addiction. Addiction isn't just about the substance. It's often rooted in trauma, hurt, and unmet needs that ripple through families and relationships. This podcast is for parents, partners, and anyone facing those challenges, offering hope, understanding, and practical tools to bring healing and balance back into your life. If you're ready to begin your own journey of healing, download my free guide, 5 Boundaries and Breakthroughs. It will be linked in the show notes. And today I would like to welcome Dr. Janelle Martin, a licensed counselor, certified IASIS, I hope I'm saying this right, microcurrent neurofeedback provider, and doctor of functional medicine. She is the founder of the Mind Connection in Houston, Texas, where she helps clients heal from trauma, addiction, and emotional dysregulation through a mind-body approach. She's also the author of Losing Her, Finding Us. Janelle brings a perspective filled with empathy, wisdom, and hope. So welcome, Janelle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. My first question I ask everybody is, what would you like to share without shame?
Well, I too am a parent of a child who became addicted to drugs as a teenager, and there's a lot of stigma attached to having this issue in your home, and it really starts when she was much younger with divorce and then a co-parent who refused to co-parent and instead decided to have it out for me and used my children to attack me. So I have also been through parental alienation, is what that's called, and estrangement of a child, and then a child who became addicted to drugs with, to cope with her pain. So kind of have it all. And I'm sharing it without shame because I am not the only one who's experienced any of this stuff. And I think that our story is powerful enough to offer hope to those who are in the midst of the struggle. And that's why I want to share it.
Thank you. So if you can tell me a little bit about your daughter and how you navigated her addiction, that would be helpful. You don't have to go into the depths of it, but just give us a little outline of how this all started and how you managed to navigate through it.
Yeah, I would like to say I did an awesome job of it, but I had no idea. I had no idea that drugs were going to be in the picture, and I didn't know that she was using, although I have pretty good intuition. So I did have some sense that something was up, but I would have never dreamed in my wildest dreams that it would be drugs. Now I'm remarried, so that I have a husband who's my daughter's stepdad. He didn't have the emotional attachment that I do, even though he loves her and he was her, acting father at the time. But he was the one kind of prodding me to pay attention a little more, and like something was really wrong. But I was really blessed and also heartbroken that a classmate of my daughter's, who they'd known each other since they were really young, but not really been friends, but she sent me a message on Facebook Messenger about her concern for my daughter's drug use. And not only did she express concern about the ramping up of her use and the people she was hanging around, but she sent me a photo of my daughter using drugs. So I couldn't argue with her about her, that's not being true or this can't be happening. It was happening, and it was a tremendous blow to me as a person, to everything I thought about everything I thought I knew about my life really was just blown up in that moment. And I think it would be for most parents, just like we don't think this is ever going to happen to a child. So I had to address it. And we did, and I didn't know what I was doing, clearly. So it was more of a session of, you can't use drugs. Yes, I said that. You can't use drugs. She knew that, but she never said she wasn't going to. But we also said, what do we need to do? What do we need to do for you so that you cannot do this anymore? And, she asked for a counselor, she asked for a dog, she asked to go to a different school. We said, we'll do all of it. We'll do everything you want. Just can't do drugs. So she got her dog, she got a counselor. I didn't know there were differences in counselors where some have a lot of experience with addiction, others don't. This one
Yeah.
didn't. So she was able to fool the counselor. And of
Sure.
course, I didn't know that. But she went a few times, but she went high every time. And it doesn't take her long or them long to figure out if people are onto them or not. So she got what she wanted. She didn't end up going back to her regular high school, but she didn't stop using drugs. I think she just
Mhm.
hit it better, at least for a bit. It
Yeah.
seemed like things got better, but then it quickly seemed like it wasn't getting better. There was just always weird things that would make me question,
Mm-hmm.
about money and things about time and things about her behavior and things about how she was dressing and that she really didn't seem to be washing her hair anymore or even combing it. Like just the progression after that, then I knew, but I didn't want to know. I still was in denial about it.
Sure. It's a
Really,
beautiful thing.
yes, it protected me. I could
Yeah.
not warm up to the concept of having a daughter using drugs.
Why yeah, why would you?
Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't, but I did end up catching her again in a lie, a major lie. And then I couldn't deny it. And she actually didn't deny it. And I think at that point, she was in the rabbit hole and she didn't want to come out. She didn't want to stop and she was very adamant and said she wasn't going to. And this was the middle of her senior year of high school.
Mm.
So what I did was I sent her to live with her dad in Arizona, and the same man who spent years using them to attack me and try to destroy my life. So that was a breaking point for me too. I was sent her away not to come home and thought I had lost both my children at that point to this man.
Mm.
Thankfully, I don't know if I say that right. Thankfully, but maybe not thankfully, her experience living with her dad did not make things better. It made it exponentially worse very
Mm-hmm.
quickly. And so within 3 months of being there, she was in extreme crisis, and we were looking for treatment centers to help us help her because I couldn't bring her back home in the state that she was in, and he couldn't have her there anymore in the state that she was in. And her response was she was going to run away and die by the time
Mm.
she turned 18. That was her
Mm.
plan. And
Mm.
so that was not going to be okay with me, and it wasn't
No.
going to be okay with her dad either. But so I had to find a treatment center for her, a place to put her, a place that could help her and help us because I needed to know more about what this was. I really still was clueless. I was Googling treatment centers and making phone calls and trying to make sense of any of it. And so many places didn't call me back. And you're guessing. It was like a shot in the dark, how to find help for somebody when they are really in crisis. And
Mm-hmm.
I was in crisis.
Yeah.
So that is kind of where it started, but I did find a treatment center that did call me back and did, talk me off the ledge a few times and promised me that this was their specialty was teens and adolescents, and that if I could get her in the door, that they would keep her there and they wouldn't make her stay, but they would get her to stay. And
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why I trusted that, but I did. Probably because there weren't a lot of other options.
It's desperation.
Yeah,
When
very much
someone
so.
says, I'm going to help you, we're so desperate. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And we just want to trust that they're going to take this precious person and do the right thing and make
Yes.
everything better.
Yes.
So how'd it work out?
Well, she didn't want to go to treatment. Let's just say that. She did not want at all to go to treatment, but she did not want to be anywhere in the vicinity of her father. So she was willing to do anything to not be around him anymore. So this was the alternative, was to go into treatment. And this treatment center was about 2.5 hours from where he lives. So he wasn't super nearby. And of course, I'm in Texas, so I really wasn't nearby. So her option there, and she really needed it. I didn't believe it at the time, but she needed inpatient treatment to start with, and that's what they recommended. And so she went simply because she wanted nothing to do with her dad at that point, and she needed to get away. I didn't care what the reason was. Just please, they said if I brought her there, if we brought her there, that they would be able to keep her and get her going. And so it didn't matter to me what her motivation was for getting there. It just needed her to be there because I was really hopeful that they would be able to turn her life around. And it took a while. It took a long while, but they did. They eventually, I do think it was totally a God thing, all of it. It just, the things that lined up, I couldn't have planned better, knowing anything about anything. But the counselor she had was tough and ended up finally breaking her down. And she talks about that in the book. And I think that is really powerful. So
So two treatments, two times in treatment, and that's been it for her?
she went to treatment, one treatment center for 10 months, and that it's called the Pathway Program in Phoenix, Arizona. It's actually in Tempe, Arizona, but it's near Phoenix. And their program is actually 2 to 2.5 years. So they keep kids a long time. And so the inpatient program was, I think she was in there 6 to 7 weeks. And then she transitioned to the intensive outpatient, what was every single day for another 8 weeks. And then she did 6 months of aftercare in the group. She stayed and lived there that
Huge.
entire time. Yeah, it was huge.
That's
It
huge.
was, yes.
28 days is just not enough because my
No,
son was in and out,
Mhm.
28 days, that's insurance is done. See you later.
Right.
How'd you get the insurance to pay for all that?
Did it. We paid for it in cash. Her dad and I, we didn't have insurance that would cover this program, but it was a lot more affordable than most treatment centers are today. And they let us make payments over the course of 10 months. I tell people, I think it's in the book too, like I could never get the math to really work to make these payments with my job and my expenses and all of that, but somehow I always had the money to pay for it. And I had the money to even fly to go visit her and spend weekends with her. I did this 3 or 4 times while she was there and take her shopping and do things with her while we were there. So God really provided in that way too. It was doable for us, and it was something that he made a way for it to happen. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Crazy, huh? From your daughter's addiction, is that how were you already a therapist or
No,
isn't it
not at all.
amazing? Isn't it amazing about, here we are with our children and it rocks our world. And I mean, I'm a realtor
Yeah,
and now I work with parents. I've been doing it for about over 18, 20 years now, I guess. And something I never would have imagined I was doing. I'm sure the same with you.
same with me. Yeah.
How'd that
I
happen?
was I was doing accounting. I've done a lot of things in my life. Originally, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. That was a really long time ago, and I didn't want to go to medical school. And so I ditched that idea and just kind of moved on. And I've done lots of things. But at the time that my daughter went into treatment, I was managing businesses for a family who had two businesses, and I was their office person, and I did all their books and everything. And I loved that job. It's actually the perfect place to be with my life crumbling around me because they were so supportive and loving and just this place of refuge that I could go to every day to try to forget, at least for a little bit, what was happening in my life. And so I believe that was divinely planted in my life as well. But going through this experience with my daughter, first with my son, not with drugs, but just being estranged from a child is very, very difficult. And then having another one who chooses drugs to cope and going through that experience, it changed everything in me.
Good.
And the parent program that went along with her treatment program was integral in really facilitating that change in me, who I am, what my purpose is, what my life's going to look like from here on out. And this was an evolving thing. It didn't just like wasn't a light bulb moment.
Right. Yeah.
It just evolved. And I had already seen a presentation about brain healing prior to, kind of in the midst of things. And it didn't work out where I could incorporate that into my life or get trained in it. So I forgot about it and focused on my daughter and all of this. And then it ended up coming back around about 18 months later. And when it came back around, I think I was even more primed to take the bull by the horns and just like go for it. And that's kind
Mhm.
of what I did. It came back around, it was offered to me. I couldn't believe it was something that I had seen a while back and didn't get to do, but oh my gosh, it's being presented to me again. Yes, I want to do it. And I did that. And at the time, my daughter was about 6 months sober for the second time. She did relapse in there. So there's all of that. But she got to be my first client that I got to treat with microcurrent neurofeedback. It just helped her amazingly with cravings and headaches and anxiety and depression and all the kinds of things that people experience when they're getting sober again. And she felt like it was just a catalyst to her recovery and really important piece of her healing. So added all the counseling and stuff later to that foundation.
Now, when she was newly in recovery and you're offering the biofeedback therapy, any medicated assisted treatment.
No,
So she's off everything.
everything. She is on nothing, takes no medication for anything. And that was one thing with her treatment center was really aligned with me in, not that I knew
Mhm.
that at the time, but they required their clients, patients, whatever they called them, to not be on any medications at all. I'm
Nice.
sure that there were some cases that needed some kind of medication, but they really did not. They didn't just prescribe a bunch of stuff for everyone like a lot of these treatment centers do. So
That
they
is amazing.
yeah, it is. It is. And, and to my knowledge, she never needed any medication. But a lot of times, most treatment centers, and I know this now, that the first thing they do is they just load them up with sleeping pills and anxiety meds. And there's all kinds of stuff. And I think to me now, doing what I do, how do you know what the brain really needs if you don't get a clean slate and assess from there?
And they're misdiagnosing these
Of
kids, or
course.
not just
Yeah.
kids, but people that are in early recovery with anxiety,
Yeah.
bipolar,
Yep. A lot of bipolar.
all these character flaws, and
Yeah.
like you're messing with the brain even more. And
Right.
why can't you? And they're in post-acute withdrawal syndrome, and
Yes.
so that's a whole thing that their brain
Yes.
has to heal. And now you're adding drugs to it, and to me it just makes a mess.
I agree. I don't like the way that is handled. And I'm really grateful that my daughter's treatment center did not do that because I wouldn't have known the difference at the time. I would have just
Yeah.
trusted that they were the experts, they know what they're doing, and that's just the way it would have been. Although I've been a natural minded person for probably better part of 20 years now, and so, but I still would have trusted them to know what they were doing. But now, with all my personal experience on this side of it, being in the counseling chair and using brain healing technology and working with clients to get them off medications or heal their brain, but so that they don't need medications, I can see that there's a lot of value in just let's take everything away and let's give ourselves a chance to balance out and function. And
Hmm.
then maybe there will be something that we need to address. Maybe there won't be, but you're never going to know if you're drugged up with something.
Hmm.
Never
And a
going to.
lot of those medications are harder to get off of than
Yes,
heroin.
they are. And
And
there
it's a
are
longer
withdrawal.
detox.
Yep, there are a lot of withdrawal symptoms that we have to work through with people that we see that have been on this just antidepressants for,
Yeah.
5 years. more. There's withdrawals with those, and that should alarm everyone.
Yeah, but you know, unfortunately, it's a society that takes a lot of medications, and which is unfortunate, you know.
We've never been sicker.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I saw, I don't know if it was supposed to be a joke or what, but it showed, you know, this line for medications, and it was really long, and then like, you know, the spiritual path or, you know, a healthy path, and nobody's in line, which
Yeah.
is really sad. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you, when my son, one of the times he was in and out of treatment, I think he was 6 times. And one of the times when I took him to the doctor, this was when he was still living with me in high school. He started at 15. At 18, it started to really excel.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor said, I want to put him on this med. And I said, no. And I know nothing. I'm just a mother who doesn't like medications.
Yeah.
And I said, no, no. He goes, well, it's not your decision. I said, yeah, it is. He lives in my house. He's under my roof, and I'm the one that has to deal with it. So yeah, he's going to do this and not be, we're going to get him off of this, and we're not going to be doing that. And I thought, you know, how dare you say that in front of my son, who was 18 at the time? He could have just said, you know, Mom, I'm going to do what I want. He could have, but he
Could
didn't.
have.
He knows I'm a strong Italian Irish mother,
And he respected his mom. Mhm.
and he respected me. And by the
Yeah.
grace of God, you know, he never did MAT, which, you know, so I think makes their lives easier, right? Because they're not messing with the brain. So tell me about when somebody does the neurobiofeedback therapy, what does that look like? And how does it affect people in recovery from addiction, from a substance use disorder?
Oh my gosh, I think it's integral in recovery because it helps to rebalance the brain from all the effects of the drugs and the things that you're putting into your body, and it all affects the way your brain is functioning. So as well as, you know, when you become addicted to substances, you are messing with the dopamine pleasure center in the brain. So you have moved the threshold of pleasure up so that normal everyday things no longer make you feel joy. They don't bring pleasure anymore. So it can take a year to 18 months or longer for that threshold to come back down after you quit using all substances.
Mm-hmm,
Every
mm-hmm,
so nobody wants to live with no pleasure or joy in their life. That is very difficult. So I will say one of the first things that my daughter said after the first treatment that she came and did with me was that she hadn't felt this happy in a
mm,
very long time. And so that tells me that what this system does is it can help move that threshold down faster so that
yeah,
you can have some pleasure in your life. But it
yeah,
also addresses all things brain. So if you are experiencing anxiety, and there's a lot of anxiety when you're in early recovery, and depression, those are very common, it helps to rebalance the brain so those things also are addressed. So what we see typically is it has a calming effect on the brain. And so you don't have as much anxiety. Some anxiety is needed and it's appropriate. And you know, if you're having panic attacks, that's not. So it addresses all of those things. And sleep can be a major problem with people who are in early recovery. Helps the brain to be able to calm down and rest and improves sleep as well. But it can do any number of things, anything that's brain related. And how we do it is we use 5 tiny electrodes, and they're really tiny, like little dimes or smaller than a dime. And we put them on the skull or on the skin or on the head, depending on the assessment that we've done, depends on where we place them and for how long. But each session probably is between 45 seconds to 7 minutes long, so they're not long sessions. And the microcurrent of energy that we use is so tiny that it's millions of times less energy than your cell phone. So it's imperceptible. So we'd call it like a spa treatment for the brain because you don't feel anything. And you just sit quietly, relax for that duration of time, or you can talk. I mean, it's okay. The only thing you can't do is sleep, but it's not a very long time to sleep. And then we typically see that our clients feel differently after the first session. I mean, the vast majority of the time, they see a difference in the first session. But it is a series of sort of untraining the brain. So it's
Mhm.
used to functioning the way it's functioning, which is maybe not very healthy. And then when we open up those stuck pathways and help it function well, you see and feel the change. But then the brain wants to go back to the way it's been functioning because that's what it's used to. So we do a series of trainings and really untrainings until we don't until it doesn't go revert back to its original state anymore. And so that can take anywhere from 8 to 10 sessions for a child and 15 to 20 for an average adult, and then a little bit more for somebody who's really been stuck and maybe on multiple medications for a good period of time. That can extend to the period of time that it
Mhm.
takes just because we want to get you through the withdrawals and the things from the medications. But
Mhm.
but it also can be used as a self-care tool because it does promote optimal functioning of the brain. So it can promote peak performance. So for athletes and for people who, do speaking engagements or take exams, things like that, it helps you to think clearer, to not have the anxiety. It helps with headaches. It helps with chronic pain, chronic fatigue. I mean, really anything brain related, just anything.
Which sounds to me like eliminates a lot of medications.
A lot. A lot. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is really cool.
Yeah, and especially when we're talking about children who are, struggling these days, we see a lot of kids with anxiety, and that causes depression. And then also attention deficit is just this monstrous thing. So we see a lot of kids and help a lot of kids because most parents don't want to put them on medication at 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. Those medications were never tested on children. So we don't know the long-term effects.
Well, and the other thing is that if you're on a medication long enough, it eventually changes your brain chemistry,
Mm, yeah.
correct?
Yeah, and yeah, you have to detox from it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of senior citizens. There's a lot of
yeah,
Americans, not just senior citizens that are on medications. And so when I was running in person meetings, a lot of parents were addicted to sleeping pills
yeah.
so they
Mhm.
could sleep at night. And I would say to them, if you just meditate, put on a meditation that will take you out of yourself, relax your body, and you'll be able to sleep. That's what I used to do. I used to do these deep sleep meditations, and that's how I got through my son's addiction. And so there were some parents that were willing to do it. They were shocked that just meditation got them off of prescription drugs.
That's great. That
Yeah,
is great. A lot of people unfortunately do like the quick fix, the pill, but pills are not fixing anything.
they're making people sicker.
They are, and that's the thing about when you take a pill for even something like anxiety, you're not taking away the anxiety. You're putting a Band-Aid on it. You're not fixing the reason why your brain is telling you that you're in danger.
Hmm.
So, and it's been the way of Western medicine to just prescribe pills, and everybody's used to, I'll take a pill and feel better, but you're the problem is still there. The problem will
Right.
be there until you address the actual problem instead of masking it with a pill. So, and
Yeah,
I
well,
never knew how many people didn't sleep until I started doing microcurrent neurofeedback. I never knew. I've always slept well. So, I just didn't realize it's such a chronic problem. And that
yeah,
is really, really bad.
we have a stressed out society.
Yes. Yeah.
People are stressed out about money, about their kids in active addiction, and what
Yeah.
are they going to do? And I mean, it gets messy. You know,
Very much so.
it's really tough. So your daughter's doing well, and your book is called Losing Her, Finding Us. So tell us about that book.
This book was born out of early recovery after my daughter's relapse. Uh, we we came together kind of separately. We came to the idea of the book separately, which was kind of cool. I had scheduled us to do a podcast interview back then together, and that was really scary. And because it was really the first time that we kind of went public with it, and it came out later that year. But at that point, because we enjoyed that so much, I had the idea to write a book, but I didn't want it to be a book just about me. I wanted her to write her part and me to write my part and put them together. And she actually came to me with the same idea around
Wow.
the same time, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And it was also because when we started going through the whole thing, I tried to read as many books as I could to get as much information and knowledge as I could possibly get. And this is the book I couldn't find. I could not
You
find
get
where
it.
you got both perspectives in the same book. And I always had questions versus one versus the other. This book gives you both. And I think that it's super powerful for that. But it also offers hope because we did come through it as awful as it was, and there's a lot of ugliness in there. And so I mean, that it's our story, but on the other side of it, today she just turned 25 and she's 6.5 years sober. And
Wow.
she
Congratulations.
has been working with me in my mental health practice now for 3 years, which was not something I saw coming at all. This was something that she came to me with and wanted to do, mostly because the microcurrent neurofeedback was so profound in helping her heal and kind of catapulting her forward into her recovery. And then all the other therapies that she ended up doing to address her traumas that she wanted to give back. And I was so shocked by that, but also blessed because it is really kind of full circle that we were able to mend our relationship as much as we have, and we are really good friends. I mean, I treat her more like an adult than my daughter because we've just been through a lot together and we're colleagues, we're friends, and yes, I'm her mom, but she doesn't need me to be a mom so much. She just needs me to be somebody she can trust
Mm-hmm.
and be honest with and vulnerable with, and we've gotten there. So that's the beauty in the story, and how we are and what we're doing now, and I think that that can be really helpful for anybody who's walking the same path.
Yeah. And so where would somebody get your book? Where would they order that?
You can get it on Amazon, you can get it off Goodreads, and it's also available at Barnes and Noble.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
All Barnes and Nobles are just local in Texas?
I think online. You should be
Oh,
able to go to
okay.
their website and get it online.
Oh, okay. Your business, your therapy,
Mhm.
is it just in person or do you do any of this online?
The microcurrent neurofeedback has to be done in person. So
Yeah.
for that piece, yes, we're in person, but we can do other things online. Like our Dr. Amen brain health assessments, we can do virtually. So we can assess your brain and we can offer nutraceutical options instead of pharmaceutical options for helping your brain function better. And we can also do, of course, counseling and brain spotting virtually. And brain spotting is what we do to address trauma.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so most people have heard of EMDR, and
Mm-hmm.
brain spotting just developed from EMDR. So it's just a lot less of a rigid modality, I guess. We like it better because that's what Reagan used when she was going through her trauma therapy, is she went to somebody for brain spotting and loved it. And so that's the modality that we've incorporated it into our practice is brain spotting. And it's as effective as EMDR. It just does it in a little bit different of a way. And we find we can use it better with children if necessary. And then most adults take to it really easily.
Is that when they hold the metal, like
That's
all three of
EMDR.
them? Okay.
Yeah, brain spotting doesn't use all of that. It does connect an eye spot in the visual field to the trauma that we're working on, and then also where we feel it in the body. So we're connecting again, mind and body. And that's kind of one of the things that I love the most about brain spotting is the body really does keep the score, and we need to release it in the body as well as in the brain.
Do you see a repetitive, I don't think theme's the right word, but that's what I can think of right now.
Yeah.
With when you're doing these different things with your patients and it's about substance use disorders, is there like a single trauma that tends to stand out more than others?
No, I hear all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff.
Does it go back often or mostly to the inner child? like
Yeah.
wounded
Oh,
little
for
kid in
sure.
there. Yeah.
Sure. For sure. Yeah. Because, a lot of people, when they start using, I mean, they're teens. That's where it starts. And so most people haven't had big earth life shattering things happen, but some definitely have.
But it could be for
So
them.
absolutely. And
It could,
everybody's level of pain is different. And so you have to hold space for that. And we don't compare our pain. Pain is pain.
yeah. And I say this all the time. I think a lot of people that have a substance use disorder are highly sensitive, they're
Yes.
empaths or empathic, and
Yes.
life is hard for them, so they self-medicate.
Yes, almost across the board, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find that too. They're beautiful souls when they're sober.
Yeah. So before we end, any words of wisdom to the listeners?
Yes, I think the biggest thing I can offer is please find a support group. Please find your people who have walked this walk or are walking it with you. And that for me was life changing, was being in the rooms with other parents and other people who are also experiencing addiction with a loved one. And I think that without that, I'm not sure I would be where I am today.
Mhm,
So I always tell people, please just go and find your support. I don't care if it's Al-Anon, parents of addicted loved ones. I don't celebrate, go to all of them and see just what you like and where you resonate the most, but find your
mhm.
people because they will be life-saving and life-changing for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. And how do people get in touch with you?
I'm pretty easy. I have two websites. The Mind Connection website is tmcbrainhealthcenter.com. And then my author website is ourbeautifulrecovery.com. I think you can go either one and find me either place. And then I'm on Facebook, Janelle Martin author, and the Mind Connection, and also Instagram, Our Beautiful Recovery and the Mind Connection. You can find me there, and please send me a message.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been great having you on.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you for joining Donna for today's conversation. Remember, trauma may wear many faces, but healing is about uncovering the truth beneath the pain and learning to live without shame. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps this message reach more hearts that need it. If you have a story of navigating trauma, shame, or addiction and how you found your freedom, Donna would love to hear from you. This podcast is built on real stories, and yours could inspire someone else's healing. Visit sharingwithoutshame.com to connect with Donna, apply to be a guest, or learn how to bring her books, coaching, and speaking engagements to your community or organization. Until next time, remember, healing begins the moment you choose to stop hiding and start sharing without shame.